My name's Claire Adams and I'm Deputy Head at Ringwood School, the secondary school. I know that we have a range of families here from across our primary feeders as well as the secondary school. So thank you again for your time. I'm really pleased to be joined this evening by Ben Dolby and his colleague Kevin Clark, who both interested parties from having children who have come through local schools, so are interested in the tech side of this because they've been through it. So have that first-hand knowledge, and also because they are local employees, employers for young people and community members, so that they are putting that tech back into our local area and are interested to talk about this topic today. So without further ado, I'm going to let Ben get started. If you have any questions during the input, please just put them into the chat and we will look to address those at the end. Got a couple of polls we hope that we'll be able to use to gather some information from you as well. So a bit of audience participation. But thank you very much, Ben. I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Claire. Hello, everybody. So this is the first time we've done this presentation. And the very first thing I want to say is, as a technology expert of many decades, it's not you, it's the technology. This stuff is quite difficult to understand and operate. And yeah, still on a journey with this stuff. So what I'm going to talk about today is some security principles from my field of technology briefly. And then I'm going to do a demo on my iPhone of setting up some basic settings for screen time control, controlling apps, and also controlling communications. And I think Kev's going to talk about talking to your children, and then we'll have Q&A at the end. And this talk should last for about 30 minutes. So I'm going to do you a demo of some settings. So hopefully I'll try and go at a pace so that if anyone's got an iPhone and want to follow along, they can, or an iPad, and they can follow this. So the first thing we're going to do is just set some controls on screen time. So we're going to go into settings, and then we've got, this is the top, and then we've got this hourglass with screen time. So the very first thing to do is to lock screen time settings. And we put in a passcode here. You get to re-enter it. Now, if you want to, you can also set up your Apple ID in the device you're putting these controls on, so you can recover the password. I'm not going to set up that now because I will probably fumble my Apple password and it won't work, but that's how this bit works. But please make a note of this passcode. Please make it different to the one your children know, because this is the thing that will prevent them circumventing the controls. And now what you'll see is when we go through the rest of this talk, you'll see a point where you're prompted to enter a PIN code, and it's that PIN code I've just set up. That's what's going on there.
That you would be doing this on the device that you'd be giving to the child.
Yeah, exactly. So practice on your own device, and then don't lose the passcode, because that would be embarrassing. Um, so we're going to go to downtime. You see straight away I get asked for the passcode. So I'm going to schedule it, and I've got it every day from 10 in the evening till 7 in the morning. So there's two or three things in this talk, which if it's the only thing you take from this talk, that's the thing you should take. So you see this setting at the bottom, which is block at downtime. That's one of the things. So one of the things is remember the passcode. The next thing is this setting at the bottom. So you must set this on. And the reason for that is when you hit the app limit, there'll be a handy message from Apple saying, do you want to ignore it? So unless you check this box at the bottom, your child can ignore the limit and it has no effect. So definitely set block at downtime. So what the effect of this is it will now turn the phone off between 10 o'clock at night and 7 in the morning, apart from the apps that you enable. So then the next place to go is the apps that you always allow. So I've allowed the phone, text messages and Google Maps, and mixing station, which I don't need. So I'm going to remove that. So what this means is your child will be able to use the phone and text messages and Google Maps even when it's during downtime. And you've also got a setting at the top for contacts, which is who they can contact during downtime. So I'm going to change that to my mother, and that's all that I can talk to during downtime. So this is the emergency scenario where your child might need to call you, so you can add them in here. Now, the other time limit we can set is around individual applications. So if you go into app limits, we can turn this on, and I'm a chess addict, so I've set chess to be 1 hour every day. And let's go and add another one. Let's go add, I don't think your children should be on LinkedIn. WhatsApp, we'll set to, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes. In fact, I'm going to set this to 1 minute because hopefully later on in the talk, I'll try and use WhatsApp and then it will stop me using it. You'll see the block happening. Okay, so that's the sort of limits around time. I'll just take a 30-second pause in case there's any questions on this topic.
So far, so good. Just some questions coming in around that the video will be made available eventually on the school website once we've just cut it down to being the relevant parts of it. So I think that's what people are asking, particularly to be able to move through what you're saying in steady time. So we will certainly make that available. So I think you're good to go, Ben.
Cool. Thank you very much. So next topic, we're going to look at what apps we allow people to use. So I think we're going to content and privacy restrictions. We're going to turn these on. Again, we get prompted for the PIN code. And again, that's what your child would have to enter to change these settings. So we can go in here and we can determine whether we allow our child to install apps, delete apps, or make in-app purchases. So I'm going to stop my child from installing apps. And if you set that, what will happen is the App Store disappears from the phone. And I've got this required password setting as well. I can also control what apps are available. So I might turn off Siri, turn off Wallet, CarPlay, they're too young to drive. Maybe. And I've got loads of settings in here about store content and what Siri will allow. Now, web content is interesting. So the default setting is unrestricted. I think it's unrestricted from memory. So you can limit adult websites. So that blocks adult websites, and then you can have certain sites which are allowed and are removed, or you can have only approved websites. This is the most locked down thing, and then you've literally got 8 websites. And if you want to add a website, if your child needs a website, say the Guardian or whatever, then you can add it in here, and then actually not the Guardian. That's a terrible example. Something of educational merit. You just add it in here, and you just put the URL, and then it will test site test.com. Yeah. So we can also set limits on content if they're allowed to download things at all. This is not a feature I've used myself particularly. And also we've got a load of settings around share my location, Bluetooth sharing, microphone sharing. So at the bottom, we've got allowed changes to passcode and Face ID. So I have one person in my house who likes to change the passcode, so I can't get into their device. So that's where you would set this to don't allow. Similarly, for accounts, not allowing changes to accounts. So that's the basics of controlling the content and the apps that are on the phone. Any questions?
There's a question coming from Stuart around whether that can be done through using the family sort of sharing on the iPhone. And I've just referenced that to Kevin that you'll pick a little bit up about that, but we are thinking we'll do another session because that's quite a big piece in its own right. So, that's the question that's come in at the moment. So yes, we will certainly look to discuss that, and Kevin will pick that up.
Excellent question. And The final thing to look at is communication limits. So, so in here, you've got a general setting for who you're allowed to contact during screen time. So that's between, if you remember, 7 in the morning and 10 at night. It doesn't have to be 7 and 10, by the way. You may have a different bedtimes and phone times for your children. So during screen time, you can say who you allow. So I might change that to just contacts or contacts and groups with at least one contact that they know. And then during downtime, you've got again, the similar setting, and you can have specific contacts. So again, you're controlling who they talk to fine through this mechanism. Now, at the bottom, you'll see this setting called allow contact editing. So this is one of the three things to pay attention to, which is you want to disable this, because if you don't disable this, what your child can do is they can edit the contact number or contact details of the contact that they are allowed to talk to with the details of someone they're not allowed to talk to, and then talk to the person they're not allowed to talk to. So this is back to the Al Capone slide. This is one of the things you need to be aware of. So that's down there. So and it does warn you down here. So we won't do that. Nope. Okay, right. Let's turn that off. Now I'm going to do something unscripted, and I'm going to try and show you what happens. Oh yeah, there you go. So this is a website. It's a Norwegian salt website, and I cannot browse to it because it's not allowed. It's not on the allow list. If I click allow website, I've now got to know the passcode to do it. So this is the experience your child will have. And like I say, I hope you've remembered your own passcode, because otherwise you lock yourself out of your own phone, which would be very annoying. And I'm very sorry for you. Yeah, that's what I have to talk to.
First one, thank you very much, Ben. I personally find it absolutely horrifying that you've almost got 10,000 unread emails on that phone, and we're going to talk about that tomorrow at work, because that's not. So the stuff I'm going to talk about is based on what myself and my partner Ruth found successful, and a few things which really didn't work. And like Ben, and I'm sure some of you here, I feel really passionate about technology and the wonderful things it can do and the opportunity it creates. And I also feel similarly passionate about children growing up with healthy, positive habits and as safe a world as is practically possible for them to grow and live in. So, to start with, I want to you to visualize uh, uh, the digital world that we're talking about as something like a shopping center or a big sporting event. Now I'm saying this, I think I should have found a really funny picture to show you, just like Ben did, but that's for the next attempt. So, in these kind of environments, they're bustling, they're filled with people. You would never consider dropping off your lone 10-year-old and saying, "Good luck, see you in 5 hours' time." And in a lot of ways, the unrestricted use of smartphones is very similar. Your children are in your own home or in someone else's home on a sleepover. They could be contacted by the wrong people or be involved in the wrong types of activities, which could, unfortunately, have very long-lasting consequences. Now, I'm sure some of you, if you're our age, remember when we were kids, we used to hear a lot about on TV about stranger danger. And I'm sure you also remember that in these kind of scenarios, your mum and parents certainly would always tell you what you should do if that happened and make sure you got home safely and told them all about it. So in effect, this section is about the modern version of the same kind of principle. So it's really about trying to foster open, honest communication and working as a team with your children. It's not about snooping, it's about responsibility and safety. Now, the right time, or the ideal time, I guess, is, as Ms. Adams says, before the phone has been handed over. That gives you the best opportunity to discuss kind of terms and how the agreement will work. But it's not the end of the world if you don't. I mean, ultimately, it's always going to be an evolving agreement between you and your children about what they can do, and probably more importantly, what responsibility they can handle. So this agreement you make will change over time when they grow up and they can handle more responsibility and they get more access and more online freedom. And I guess it's just like being old enough to use public transport by themselves and then being old enough to drive a car. And the last thought on this kind of opening section is, you know, iPhones are a privilege. They're not a right. They're not the same as food or drinking water or stuff like that. And they're really, really expensive. So my daughter lost her first iPhone after 2 months of owning it. She then lost the second one after about 6 months of owning it. But fortunately, by that point, I'd worked out how to use location services, and I could track the phone, and I managed to recover it in the car park, in the bush, where it was when she got off the phone and she didn't realise by the time she got back to the house. Now, it's worth saying that now we've used the word tracking, this bit's important. Teenagers are supposed to have a life that doesn't necessarily involve every detail with their parents. It is important they live their own life and learn to make good choices, and also learn about the consequences of those actions. She was exceptionally lucky that that time I didn't charge her for the second phone because obviously, as an 11-year-old, she really didn't have much capital to buy with. So I'm pleased to say that you, as parents of this school, are actually really lucky. The school is very invested in helping you with this matter, and they've created some really good online resources. When my partner and I were in this position, we didn't have that. So we had to come up with something. And what we came up with was treating our children like young adults who could handle contracts and living up to agreements that they had signed. Not in blood, I might add, but honestly, if that second phone had been lost, I would have considered it. So this is what we came up with. So I'm just going to try and share my screen and show you some information. So let me know if this is working for you.
Yep, that's all good.
Great, thank you. Now, so after I go through this, I'm going to show what the school have actually provided for you. But I just wanted to talk through the basics here in terms of why we ended up with this. So it's worth first saying that we made this feel like it was really important. So we only ever had conversations about mobile phones around the family table, sat there saying this is an important conversation, so let's behave like that. The key thing that one of the things that we did here was we actually printed off 2 copies of this. I shared it. We sat there and read it through. If there were any amendments we made, we scribbled them out, printed off 2 new versions, and then they were signed. We both signed them, and the child, in this case, so this was Polly's first contract. She kept it in her room. She could refer to it at any point. And one of the things that I thought was really important to start with was this top section here about rule breaking, doing something different. There's always a temptation to want to stay up there, to do something else. And the key part here was about trying to agree something where it's fine to think ahead and plan ahead and discuss, oh, actually, I'm staying over at so-and-so's house. Could I do something different? That was fine. We'd always happily talk about that. It wasn't okay if we found out later on that that had happened. There's some critical bits here to consider around impact on home life. So, for example, whether you do or don't allow these devices in private areas, our rule at Southern Law is absolutely no. And we also wanted to make sure that things like, for example, the impact on the daily life was maintained. So saying, these phones can't get in, or the habits that you form here can't get in the way of doing schoolwork. You can't get in the way of you getting ready for the next day. There was also a significant amount of things for Holly here about Instagram usage. This is one of the primary drivers for her. So we made some specific rules around online behavior, specifically around Instagram. So making sure that the first time, for example, when she signed up for the account, I sat down and went through it with her. I made sure that the profile was set to private, location services weren't enabled, and critically about things that she wouldn't do. And this is her grandparents. If she couldn't show the post to her grandparents, she wasn't supposed to be writing that kind of stuff. And making sure that the people she interacted with were actual real people that she actually knew from her life, and trying to make sure that the responsibility and her behaviour that she didn't relatively naturally as a person was replicated online as well. There was also some critical parts in there about random checks. Again, this is a bit like the point we made about tracking. These are things you can do, but in no way should you be abusing this stuff. It's to make sure that there's an agreement that should you, for whatever reason, think there's something going on, or in fact, just, to test the waters, please let's have a look and hand it over. We made the agreement that we wouldn't ever abuse this. We did it a couple of times throughout the first 6 months. And, it was important that she's terrible for this, like saying, in a minute, I'll be there in a second. It's like, you need to hand it over so we can see what's going on. This stuff was, as I said, signed and agreed. And throughout the following 3-4 years, every school year or every birthday, we sat here and we re-looked at this to say, okay, well, instead of it being 9 o'clock, is it now 9:30? Is it now 10 o'clock? Things like that. We actually have 2 quite different children. And as the youngest then grew up seeing his sister doing things, of course, the idea was in his head earlier. And of course, being a boy, he was far more interested in shooting strangers online via his Xbox, as I'm sure all of your boys are as well. Now, as a result of that, we took a slightly different tack. So he always wanted things earlier. So from our point of view, we wanted to make sure that he understood he had to grow up a bit quicker, I guess, or be more mature, demonstrate the fact he could handle it. So the first time he asked about Xbox, we made an agreement that we would in fact agree to attend a sporting activity every week to offset the fact he was going to spend almost 99% of his life now sat down yelling at the screen. Um, as a result of that, when he then had a mobile phone, he couldn't just agree to the same kind of conditions as his sister. He had to do a bit more. So effectively, as we put here, so he was now able to commit to having the responsibility of doing these extra things. So unfortunately for Oscar, they spent from year 7, he started emptying the dishwasher every day. He started doing his own washing. He started helping out with recycling. And sure, there were a few times where I'd forgotten to do some of those things, but it was always helped a lot. He had very similar set of rules in general. But with Oscar, one thing that we realised was, and this is about, as you can see from the data, it's about 3 years different in terms of the time frame. There were different kind of behaviours going on in the wider area, in the wider schools community. So it was something else that we decided to put in here was this particular point about the fact that everything he did on his phone was backed up. So he may do something and thought, oh, no one will ever know. But actually, by the time he's done that, there's probably a version of it on the cloud, and that's then distributed across multiple countries, depending on what the resilience is. And actually, trying to get rid of this stuff is actually quite challenging. Ideally, especially when it comes to photos, for instance, idea is they're backed up and you never lose them. It's great when it's your family holiday to Tenerife. Not so good if it's things that you shouldn't see. So, when I say about your school is really trying to help you out here, as you can see from the ideas of the things that we've put in, these are designed to create a conversation piece. We sit down and actually talk about how we use the internet, how we behave, and what is or isn't acceptable. And more importantly, agree how those rules are. This then means if anyone breaks a rule, you can refer to it, you can ask the question, you have something to discuss. Your school supplies something called Internet Safety Plan, which, as you can see, actually contains quite a number of similar items in here about how we use the internet, where we keep our devices, especially important at night, and where they're going to be charged up. I decided to buy you may have seen these are like a large block with lots of stands in, so everyone puts their phones in the same place and charges them up, so everyone knows where they are. And I love this fact down here. I never thought of this about the plan being shared with other members of the family. It's a great idea. I wish I'd thought of that. I'm actually the step parent of Holly and Oscar. We've been together now for 10 years of family. And I really wish that I thought about having a shared version, something that's there, because he didn't necessarily think in the same way to us. And that could have been really helpful if I thought about it. Anyway, that's all my problem in history. So some of the key things I wanted to just talk around here, just remind about the fact that whatever agreements you make, you've got to follow them up. There must be consequences. It's really, really important. And this should be as a result of sitting down and talking about these things. Think in your mind really about when children are coming up to things like summer holidays, birthdays, plan in advance. Think, discuss as you and your partner, or just think ahead of time about what changes you think are going to be reasonable, what app settings need to be changed, do they need to be upgraded to being able to watch 15 films on YouTube, or whatever it is. It's worth saying, by the way, that many times I completely forgot about change things and holiday time and said, yeah, I'll be fine to 11 o'clock. And then I realized that, that my kid looked quite tired at some point in the end of September. I thought, I never changed that setting. And I must say that Oscar particularly was always very good at volunteering and saying, look, I'm allowed to do this, and I know that you think I shouldn't be allowed to do it, so you probably want to change that setting. And I guess really that's really what we're trying to aim for, is this collaborative team effort.
Just stay conscious of time, Kev. It's 7 o'clock.
Oh, sorry, I'm going to be very quick about these last few sentences then. So, do you remember the picture that Ben sent you about the security gate and everyone going around it? It's really, really important that the will and temptation can always be there. The best approach is always restrictions, good communication, and then actually promote the right behavior. And as Ben showed you, the iPhone can have a bewildering amount of things to do on it, including about locking it down, reducing functions, etc., etc. So the one thing that there was a question about earlier is about Apple Family sharing. So this is something that I do use, and as Sam said, yeah, very happy to run another session on this because I've used it extensively from day one. Just a few highlights. You can invite up to 6 people on it. Under 13s, you'll need to create an account for them. The critical part is it will manage all the settings that Ben just showed you from your iPad or your iPhone. You can put additional things in place like requests for downloading things or buying things, stuff like that. You can see all of the screen time reports from your device. And you can use things like, for example, sharing location services between your devices as well. That I might add is particularly helpful when you go on family holidays and you all end up in different places and you're trying to find each other. It's free to set up. You can purchase other subscriptions, which I have done, which is things like extra shared storage, shared subscriptions to Apple Music, Apple TV, things like that. And I pay for the most expensive one you can get, and that's £37 a month just to give some kind of budget on it. Just to say it again, Miss Adams asked me to remind you all about the online resources schools have. That was the email that was sent out. This URL, so please make a note of it, school/safeguarding. And this is where the internet safety plan that I've been showing you here can be downloaded. That is it.
Thanks so much, Kevin, and thanks for just referencing the school website. All schools have safeguarding pages, which will give you as parents details about who to contact if you have a concern in school, and also just good reference points for you to be well informed. One of the things we always say to parents is, don't be an ostrich about this. Go out and have a look. Just saying that you don't know how the technology works, that's in this modern age is a really hard one, because sadly, we can get bamboozled by our children, but we need to be making sure that we are protecting them, because it's such a powerful device. And it does open them up to the World Wide Web, exactly as it says, and that is a whole heap of really great resources, really amazing for education and interest, but also does allow them to be contactable by people who you don't know and they don't know, and that is the key here. And thank you so much, Ben. Thank you so much, Kevin. It's with parents like you and interested, community members that means that we can run sessions like this. And you really talk from a position of authority and having a good go at it. And that's the main thing. And I'm really grateful for the parents today to join.